Hello, everyone. It's Denise Tilley here, and I am delighted to have you here on our webinar today, Clearing the Path to Wealth and Well-Being for High-Level Coaches and Professionals with Louise Smart. Louise and I met about a year ago, and she's just been amazing to work with. I came to her during a time where, I just had some big stumbling blocks that I had tried to work through over and over again and was affecting my business. And when I met Louise, I really could tell that, like, wow, she just has like this amazing knowledge of energy and, and how to use it in a practical way, which I think is one of the things that makes her so unique, along with her just knowledge of this big vision of how it all works together. And so what I'm so excited about sharing with you is, her work and a very special program that she has to offer to, again, high-level professionals and coaches. And I think you'll find that it's just an absolute essential piece of the work that we do if you want to work on a high level. And, she can help us all clear our path to wealth and well-being. So I want to tell you a little bit about Louise, just to introduce her. She has over 25 years of clinical and corporate experience, including consulting in a stress management unit at a major London hospital. She's presented to professional wellness programs, to city law firms, lecturing in emotional detox and energy clearing at Grace Shot Spa in the UK. She's currently working with clients worldwide, offering emotional detox programs, couples therapy, executive stress programs, energy clearing packages, sexual abuse recovery, and she's been featured in Harper's Bazaar, Red, Spa World, European Spa, The Wharf, The Independent, and Positive Health. So without further ado, welcome, Louise. It's so nice to have you here.
Thank you so much, Denise. That's a lovely intro. What can I say?
Well, I'm just delighted to introduce you to people and, to other coaches in the industry and other people, other professionals working on a high level who are really here to, to really experience their full potential, and who are people like myself who really just want to learn more, about how they can best serve their clients. And so, what I've discovered in working with you is just, I think it's just very profound that, what I've discovered is that the work that you do is just absolutely essential. And it's something that with all the different programs and coaching that I've had, there's been some emphasis on it, but not an understanding of it in the way that you offer that. And what I've, learned from working with you is like, wow, this is just, this is foundational. It's absolutely essential if you're really going to make the impact on your, for yourself and certainly for your clients that people working at a high level, and tend to do. And even if you've been doing that, maybe you've experienced some burnout, or maybe you've still had that stubborn, block like I had, where I had cleared a lot of other things, but there was this one block that I just could not move past. And I just have been so amazed by, the work that you've been able to do with me. So,
thank you, Denise. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, we are not two-dimensional. We're not three-dimensional. We are multidimensional. So to really bring that into a focus of practical daily awareness of ourselves is that a lot of the work that coaches have done to date is fantastic. I love the elasticity of consciousness. We are really the people that are making the way for others, making it easy to really tap into what freedom is. And freedom, to me, is not just about my mind, my mindset. It's not just about my beliefs, because as a sentient being, I am consciousness, you are consciousness, we are all consciousness, and we are all interconnected. And these are nice sounding sound bites that we read about, and we want them to be real. We want to feel the oneness of that. We want to feel the love. We want to feel the connection. And to truly feel that, we've got to access it inside of us. We've got to feel that inside us. We've got to be able to feel the love. We've got to feel the fullness of who we are. We've got to know the soul is leading the way. We've got to be able to feel that and know that aspect of ourselves, because this is the new consciousness. We've lived, all of us currently now are in the digital age of information, and there's a lot out there. It's exhaustive, and for many of us exhausting, and you think about how much we digest on a daily basis. It's just immense. And you've got to ask yourself, you know, if we're going to be living lives of fulfillment, is this really fulfilling us? Are you feeling fulfilled by spending so many hours on the internet? Not you personally, Denise, but are we really feeling the life force in us by being stuck in front of a computer and a screen? So I'm not debunking any of that, of course, but I think our attention to that and attention to ourselves, our core energy, what I call our signature energy, the vitality and life force that we are, and the power that is, and the wisdom that is, we've got to have tangible, practicable ways of accessing it, and also being able to interpret our own energy and our own power centers. So we are moving from the information age into what I call the wealth, the internal sort of, what was the word I was going to use? I've lost my own wording even, but our own inner technology, which is our own energy. And when we have access to it and can connect with it and can interpret our own energy and our own signals and our own beingness, our core beingness and our soul, then this is the wealth that we can draw on in the face of massive change, a lot of confusion for a lot of people, whether, you know, people are exiting corporate world because the fulfillment isn't there, and you're looking to use your skill base, use your talents. How do you find the stability and the security? You're not going to get it from Google.
Really?
No. And you're not going to get it from someone else. Because exactly. We're all trying to move forward in this authenticity, and that's not easy. You know, to be authentic isn't about, as far as I'm concerned, it isn't about laying it all out there for everyone to see. It's being able to feel your way into yourself and be fed by something from the inside out. And you've got to navigate. And this is what I help people do, really. It's navigate into this internal energy system and the power centers and the sort of circuitry of that. So, gosh, I've said a lot.
No, that's amazing. And so again, I just want to reiterate is that just, you know, your ability to describe this, you know, and to put it, all these pieces in a bigger vision is what really drew me to you. You know, when we first spoke, I was like, wow, this lady really knows what she's talking about. I could tell that you had, you know, this is something that you had been doing for years, and that there was just so much substance to it. And certainly I've met different people who, you know, do energy work, but yeah, what you do is different. You know, I feel like you really educate, like you've really educated me on just my own power and where that comes from. You know, it's not so elusive, like you're talking about how everyone talks about authenticity. And that comes up in my work with my clients, where, you know, I suggest them to be authentic, but what does that mean? You know, that's confusing to people. And sometimes people can even fool themselves and think they're being authentic, and maybe they're completely coming from ego. And so how that relates to our businesses is that we know that doesn't draw people in. We know that doesn't really make the impact when you're coming from that place. Would you agree?
I totally agree. I can sort of backtrack a bit with this, you know, for myself, needing to make sense of the information that I had experienced. Basically, I trained as a dancer, so I was very familiar with the workings of my body. I was used to sort of draining myself and really pushing my body and starving myself and all the shenanigans that I got into. But when I finished my professional dance training, which was very intense, like being an athlete, I'd seen this woman called Gerda Geddes, who was the Tai Chi teacher when I did one of my auditions for a college, and she was probably in her 80s. And I mean, the presence, it was her presence, not just the movement. Of course, the movement is very beautiful. It was just, she was just totally alive and calm. I was mesmerized by her. I was absolutely mesmerized. I thought, I have to do this. I have to learn about this. And I had some amazing experiences with Tai Chi and other experiences that I've had that I have really seen. I've seen color, you know, the luminosity of color in this guy. He was called Chung Liang Al Hang Luang. He was an architect who'd then started to teach Tai Chi, and he was on stage, and literally I saw right through, and at the other side of him, his whole heart area was green, luminous light. And I thought, what the heck is going on? And of course, you can read about auras and colors, but there's a lot of very superficial information about the spiritual dimensions and energy. And I'm someone who I want to, you know, I am very curious and I am very interested. They're real experiences that I've had. So I've wanted to understand them. And the same as you. I really want to know what this is about and what does it mean to me. And so there is a correlation here, is that there is a lot of information out there about the spiritual dimensions. There's a lot about consciousness. There's a lot about energy. And it's still about what I'm trying to do with myself and with all of my clients is, just like you're saying, is to connect with your own power. And your own power includes your wisdom of discernment about what you take on from outside of you, all the conditioning and all the things that we've had growing up, what we've been taught to believe, versus what do we know from the inside out. And the deepest knowing that we can have is, first of all, we have to be in touch with our core signature energy, and to be able to be really savvy about understanding our impulses and our feelings, which are very important. Please get me to talk about those later, but it's very important. Yeah. Feelings, emotions, sensations in the body, because the body is our resource. It's an amazing resource. This is the technology. This has all the information. It stores the Akashic records, but not only that. And the Akashic records means, you know, records of our soul, lifetimes back. But even if you're not into that, you know, basically the body gives signals all the time. So if you keep ignoring a recurring sore throat with suppressants, so you put loads of painkillers into your body, then you can't hear what this throat problem is trying to tell you. So the throat is a power center, and it's all about personal truth. The front of the throat, when there's problems in the front of the throat, is to do with personal expression and personal truth. And the back of the neck is about personal will. And so your will is linked to your truth. There are other power centers that, you know, I could talk endlessly about it, but for the purposes of today, that being in one's personal power, trusting yourself, trusting your own inner impulses, whether it's your inner voice or it's the sensations of the body, or it's, you know, you might even get a symbol, or you see suddenly a flash of color. I see a lot of that. Or you just see something right in front of you on the TV, or you pick up, or you see a sentence, you know it's for you. And this is how the universe works. It is totally set up in a benign way for our development, the soul development, and we have all the support here. So we make a big movement away from the logical mind, you know, mindset work, to a much deeper 4D experience. You know, we are sentient beings. And I love to use the word visceral. Visceral being, you know, fully feeling. You know, women particularly are totally, you know, we've got the wiring for this gut reaction in us. And what's happened is because so many of us have been brought up in a very masculine dominant work environment, that we've had to compete as if we are men. And I saw this a lot when I was working in the corporate arena, and I still am working with a lot of women who really are, you know, they're really up against it now, because there's so much, you know, out there now in terms of the news and how women are kicking against the things that they no longer want to put up with. But saying that, you know, you can't just voice everything how you want it to be if you're up against a very dominant male environment. So women are wanting to find a new way of either staying where they are, but really in their power, standing in their boots, or they're wanting to move out of those environments where they can have much more liberation. So we've got to work through the elements of fear that are locked into the conditioning that's actually still embedded in our physicality. Because fear, when you think about it, comes up through the body, doesn't it? When you know, when you kind of like, you set your mind, you set your intentions, you do your affirmations, and then you step forward, and then whoosh, up comes the fear. And you go, what do I do with this? And I'm not a proponent of, you know, just feel the fear and do it anyway. Sometimes fear has got some very important information for us. And sometimes we've got a lot of fear in our bodies that's actually come from our conditioning, often from our parents. So I teach people how to leverage that off, but not ignore it. It's not about tapping it away. I don't tap it away. I've got my own techniques that foster this internal reliance and the internal, you know, to be able to ground the safety into us. Teaching people, you know, it's like only when you start to clear, it's funny, it's a paradox really. It's like, to be free of fear, you have to actually have to move right into it. Like you have to move right into vulnerability in order to come out the other side of it. And when you can kind of master some of the energies of fear, what happens is that actually the support drops into your body. That's the best way to describe it. But don't forget, I'm just describing it at the moment. I can say this, you go, that sounds nice, but you've got to do it. We have to do the work. We have to do the work.
Which that's what I want to, you know, comment on in terms of my work with you, is that, you know, I had a intellectual understanding of things prior to working with you, certainly much better now, and looking to grow that even more as I continue to work with you. But what I've just been amazed by is that it's almost like it was outside of me, and you taught me how to bring it inside of me. And so we're all like, all the parts are working together now. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's what it feels like to me. And it also, in that process, and you gave me a heads up that it would probably work this way, and it had, or it did, is that, you know, you said, oh, it's going to be very gentle. And that's something that I would have never imagined that it would come to, you know, that my getting in touch with my core power.
Hello, Pucky. Pucky's having a standoff.
So he's tapping into his core power right now.
He's tapping into it in a dog. In a dog mastery.
Yes. She offers a dog mastery course as well.
Dog mastery program. That's my next one.
He doesn't need any of that, I don't think. I think he's mastered. But you know what, I just like, I literally feel that on a visceral. I feel that on a visceral level, where, and so there's a realness about it. Whereas with mindset work, to me, the difference is, because I've done a tremendous amount of mindset work that has helped. But it doesn't have a permanence to it the way that the work I've done with you does. And I found that I started feeling that permanence pretty soon after working with you. And I find that so interesting. So to me, what my experience has been is something that's very, like, the growth that I've done with you is very grounded it's very substantial and it's incremental, but it's, but like from the very beginning, because it had those elements around it that did feel visceral instead of just being intellectual, I knew that I was in the right place. And I also kind of had like, was able to like relax into it and go, oh, wow, like I found what I was looking for. It's going to work this time. You know, the things that have been in my path, or that I have allowed to stand in my way. Like, I know that those are like crumbling, you know, they're crumbling now. And so hopefully I explained that well, but all that to say, I guess I never anticipated it working quite like that. You know, mindset work feels so different. It's almost like, okay, now I'm going to feel good. Let me say a mantra or whatever, you know, but with this, I don't know, there's just something very substantial about it. So hopefully everyone listening, you know, appreciates the difference of what I just described.
Well, let me just say with Denise, and the clients that I attract, there's a readiness. Of course, you know, if we're going to any kind of process, and let's face it, you know, how many of us really know where this, you know, massive expansion is going towards? There's a lot of stepping forward sometimes with not knowing how it's going to pan out. But I have found, and I really do know this for myself, is that, you know, when you've had an experience when it looks like everything's been taken away from you, this is when the universe is really amazing. Is that I had at that time, that juncture when that happened for me, there was a deep knowing inside me. It's like, oh, that's a cleansing. Like, clear that out the way. Mm-hmm. And I had to work with some trauma area and some repeated cycles in my life that I knew I needed to heal. And that's what I just buckled down and I did the deep inner work. And each step that I took towards doing that, the more I felt this sort of holding support, this sort of feminine, soft, holding, all-knowing, all-powerful support. And I know that is that's what's at the back of me. And by really grounding that softness, the protection, the love, the support, I can feel that in myself. Then that is what allows me, and I feel totally confident that I can impart that to someone. I can't give mine to someone else, but I can help people find that within themselves, because that's what we need to be able to be really authentic. Because a lot of our authenticity, a lot of who we really are, has had to be suppressed, you know, through childhood or, you know, through fitting in or whatever our experience has been. There's a lot of us, we have to shut down. And this is the amazing thing about creativity and opening up these power centers, is that, you know, once you start moving through where the blocks are, and we do this very carefully, we do this very gently, and it is so that people can carry on working, not hospitalized. Yeah. But it is deep work, and I get total respect for the fact that, you know, people have got to be, you know, they may be heading up a department, or they may be in a massively stressful job. They might be a CEO. You know the spectrum of the people that I work with. You've got to be able to function. But this work is really important to do, because it's a bit like, you know, when you kind of move house and you can just get rid of stuff that you know that it's been in boxes and you just think, oh, I don't think I need that. And it sort of stores there. It's like static. You don't need it. You don't need it anymore. It needs to be junked, detoxed. There's a lightning, and then you just shift and move somewhere new, and you plant yourself anew. And this is totally what consciousness is about. These levels of consciousness are about major shifts, you know, literally uproot and move. And what we want to be taking with us is higher aspects of ourselves, but very grounded, you know, really literally physically grounded, feeling support, feeling wisdom, and feeling guidance. Not just thinking not just all up here, but feeling it in the body, and a sense that whatever, even if you have a difficult experience, you've got a relationship or business communications that are tricky, so that we can often kind of set up, oh, I've got to speak to that person again today. And there's, you know, you may be working with them very, very closely. That we project a lot energetically onto people. And if we want to get up and really move into our power, then of course we want all of the dynamics of the relationships that we have, both in family and personal and intimate and what have you. We want to be able to feel the safety, the security, the stability, and the growth of that, the expansion of that, the creativity that we can have with other people. So how you get to change the dynamics with relationships is implicit in the work that I do, that it's about being able to really understand how energy works and how you can change a dynamic with someone else, even if it's been a long-term relationship. And sometimes it's really about the discernment energetically of when it's time to completely cut ties with people, places, or circumstances. So it's very practical what I'm doing, but it's esoteric in that its origins. You know, you can't. Some people can see energy. I can see aspects of energy, but that's not the point. The point is that's what we're made of, and we have our own. Like, you know, if you think of the core of creation, like a sun, and off it come all the rays of light, and we are those individuated rays of the Godhead, so to speak, or divinity, or just source. And we are unique, but we are from source and we have that power. And as we kind of, as this ray of light comes further and further away from its source, it feels like that energy is diluted. But we're all on this journey back to our source, knowing who we are, but we have to relate to each other at different levels of evolvement. So developing and mastering signature energy in our business, in our coaching business, or whatever it is that we're doing, it's not just about us. It's about the discernment. It's being able to read other people's energies with acuity, with accuracy, and very fast, so that you're not disappointed by someone else's behavior. You're not, you know, they might let you down, but if you know who you're dealing with, if you know the dynamics, you don't start working with people that you have a gut feeling about, that you think there's something off. You know, some people will go, yeah, but the money's there.
Right.
Or they said this, or they've got a good background, or their brand looks brilliant. You know, if it doesn't feel right, you've got to say no. And that's tough for people who've had betrayal, who've had trauma, who've had difficulties before. Trusting yourself is not easy. And so a lot of my work is helping people to really trust the power within them that's got the wisdom.
Beautiful. And you've definitely helped me with that as well. And going back to, you know, what I'm thinking of in terms of the coaching industry terminology, you know, thinking about your ideal client, you know, that's such a, you know, I'll have sometimes people say to me, people who haven't been in the coaching industry quite as long will say, you know, wow, an ideal client. Well, that sounds nice. And it's like, well, there's, you know, there's actually a lot of practicality around that, and a lot of good reasons to understand who your ideal client is and why, you know, you want to really work with those, you know, people who are your ideal client, as opposed to taking anyone who shows an interest, because those are who you're going to have an impact with, the biggest impact. And, you know, going back to the work that you do, and that you helped me with this as well, is that I was one of those people who I was kind of unclear on who I wanted to work with, or really didn't feel like I was, you know, I don't know if I'm ready to work with the type of client that I want to work with. And there was a lot of conflict, you know, for me with that, because on one level I was like, that's definitely who I want to work with. And that's, you know, I know I'm capable of that. And then I had this other voice saying, I don't know, maybe later. So I was trying to work with a different type of client, you know, a while back, thinking that's who I needed to start with. And that wasn't working. I mean, not only was I not drawing people in, but when I would talk with them, you know, there just wasn't a resonance really on either part. And I know that that was totally energetic. And then soon after I had done some work with you, I had a woman who, has amazing credentials, not that credentials are everything, but, she does amazing work in the world. And she was referred to me. And I'm just, I'm like, wow, this can happen so quickly if I just shift my energy. It's not about getting more information. It's not about me learning more, getting more information about the work that I do, because I'm always doing that anyway. But but with that, I need to have my energy shift. I need to see this in a different, or I need to feel this in a different way.
Absolutely. Yeah. Feel, see, sense this inner presence. And it's not static, it is dynamic, of course, because energy is moving. It can upgrade, but it can also go down in consciousness. If you stuff yourself with the heavy, dense food and you're drinking too much, and you're running on stimulants and not looking after yourself, then your vibration will go down. You won't see the connect immediately. You won't immediately lose clients, but you'll just go down and you'll feel that, and you won't have the same vibrancy. So I think that, not compromising with ourselves is really about, and it's an important part of, my self-love, the audio series that I have that is very four-dimensional, the care for ourselves, not just care, but the deep sense of flow of the warmth of love inside of ourselves, but also the honoring of self and identifying. You've got to be in touch with the identity of yourself as this core signature energy, and you can't put a price on it. You can't put a price on an individuated ray of source. How can you put a price on that?
Right.
You can't.
Right.
You can teach yourself to honor and have unconditional loving kindness and respect for everything that we do. We all go off on tangents. We can all go off on the wrong routes, and we can all, be trying to push to find our way to the next space. And all of it can be met with compassion. All of it can be met with kindness. But we all want, we're actually driven. It's a part of our brain that's driven by reward. So we want the answers, and of course, we want abundance and prosperity, and we want vibrant health, and we want fulfillment. But if we're not in touch with the fact that the source of this comes from our own inner wealth, our own core signature energy, we just actually keep looking out there, and we might be able to accumulate this, and this, and not have the recognition and not feel the fullness, the wholeness of having that identity really acknowledged and deeply acknowledged.
Really acknowledged by us, right?
Yes,
by ourselves.
First. Yes. Because it's like when you really respect, love, and honor yourself, no matter how someone else is showing up around you, it's their stuff.
Right.
It's not.
Which makes it so much easier when you approach it that way, right? Like if you do have a difficult client,
when you feel. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Well, just as an example, like if you do have a difficult client, or you have something, you have like an uncomfortable situation, if you're coming from I can say this from my own experience now, is like when you're coming from that core energy, you just let things be what they are. Right? Because you're not trying to control, or not fretting over, a certain outcome. And I find that like the results are so much more powerful for both me and my client in those situations, coming out. Like I can feel, because I know that now, like I trust that if I just go back to my core energy, that like it's straying from that is where the mistakes are made, basically. The mistakes are not made in these external things. They're made starting, it's trusting and following your core energy as opposed to your ego, really, or thinking you need to figure something out.
Yes. And that takes the skill to get that navigation in towards it, to settle with that, just stay with that and keep trusting that no matter what, your body will be throwing up the fear and the thinking and the self-doubt and the more self-doubt and all, just somebody over there might know this. And it's very easy for us to get caught up with going out and not recognizing that sometimes we have to wait. Sometimes we have to wait for answers, and we don't know how to do this. The gap between setting an intention and fully setting the intention with your whole body and core energy behind that is that, when we want results, of course, and we see results in terms of time. So the timeline between setting an intention and receiving, whether we've surrendered or we've, done something and put something out there and we're waiting for something or someone to come back to us, there's some real balancing to do within that. It's not just a simple, I surrender, so
Right.
lots of other things come up, don't they?
Yes.
Your own doubt and what if, and then the mind goes off and all the sort of wonderings that we do. Is that, mastering ourselves is very much about how we manage time. It's about how we manage our sort of primal drives. You call it the ego, but I mean, I don't, we both know what we're talking about, but the primal drives of a consciousness that is still elevating itself. And we don't lose this. I don't think that people lose it just because they get enlightened even, we still react. But our primal drives are, really around control and security and very much around approval. And they're all linked in this sort of... So having major skills that are really sort of, you can use in real time. So when you're working with your client or, something that I think a lot of coaches will learn from me, how to help their clients do some just very basic, very simple, very powerful methods of just leveraging off the static that we experience in the body, but in the mind and the emotions, or it's, however we experience life, is that we get a discomfort. And for me, tapping drives me bonkers. Yeah. I'm not saying it's wrong and it works for a lot of people, but you can't do that privately. But the techniques that I use, you can do very privately. Nobody would know that you're doing it. So for instance, I've just been working with a client. He's very high up in a international marketing company, and he's had long-term anxiety, but it's really kicking into his work now because he's really with some very, very big clients, big name clients. So he has to perform. And so he's having coaching, not just with his sort of the old anxieties, but with the way that he interfaces with some of these clients that are not as competent as they make out, and how to manage the way that he's just gives so much power away because he's waiting for an approval. He's working with someone, and it's not going to come from people that actually are incompetent and keep changing the goalposts, which is what's going on with his clients, one client in particular. And that's been eating up his time. He's not eating properly and not exercising. And this is someone who's really been brought up, in a family that's very sort of health conscious. So kind of everything's gone by the side. In order to get the approval from clients. So even though his own company is really supporting him, he's, needed the coaching at all the levels, the body, the emotion, the spirit. He's very open to consciousness and spirituality. He's younger than me. So when a lot of people coming up the ranks, are much more au fait and conscious of, the law of attraction, the law of vibration, and, they get the sort of energy thing. It's on most TV sitcoms now, I'll raise my vibration. In America more than in the UK. So basically, we've got a generation coming up behind me that are much more conversant, at least at the language level of energy. So it's very exciting because I don't have to blame myself. It's like, they know what I'm talking about. It's wonderful. It's very interesting, but very practical. Sorry.
Excuse me. I'm sorry.
No, but we cut across. I think there's a bit of a time lag, isn't there, between my lovely friend Denise is in Vermont. I haven't been there yet. I'm going to go visit.
Yes,
and I'm in Cornwall, and so it's very sunny over there. But anyway, I think the time difference is just creating a little bit of a lag. Wasn't it? That wasn't my sign, by the way.
Okay, good. So I wanted
We have a little
things I
sign in
wanted
case I fuck up. I've just said it. I've shared it with my audience. That's my sign in case I fuck up. Let's keep going.
Very subtle, thank you.
That was not so subtle.
So
Okay.
something I wanted to bring up that to me was something that I, was a huge reason why I started working with you is, at this point in my life, I realized, like I used to think that like the issue that the block that I came to you with, that, if I became, when I became very successful, that would just dissolve itself. Right.
Yeah.
And it has not worked that way. And so to go back to the example that you just gave of your corporate client,
yeah,
who sounds very successful, working on a high level, it's interesting how he is at that point. He has the success, he has the high level, or he's working at the high level, and yet he still has these problems that are these issues that have been following him around, right? And maybe they're just coming out more now. And so isn't that like, that's typically how we're not usually proactive about these things, like, because they're, it is deep work, but it's when this is why I wanted to share you and your work with the coaching community, is because the depth that you go into, I just think, it goes back to what I said in the beginning. I find it just essential with the type of work that we're doing. Not everybody needs to do it, but if you're doing coaching and you want to do coaching on a high level, how could this not be absolutely essential, to clear your own path so that you can be able to, channel the gifts that you have to your own clients?
Absolutely. Gosh, I don't know where to start. I mean, in response to that, I'd say that I work, nobody's immune to stress, and we have massive stress. As soon as you wake up in the morning, there's information overload, static, magnetic stress, just a lot going on in our physical environment that we tend to overlook because we can't see it. But I tell you, if you go, and I did a detox in July, I went to digital detox in Italy. Gosh, and I live in the country, of course, I have the internet, but just switching everything off, no technology. Oh my gosh. And good, raw food, lots of raw food, which I love to do as well. I mean, it's a big part of what I really promote, certainly in raising people's sort of energy and vitality. But I don't think that how many people really who are in working at high level, the idea of doing, counseling and therapy, unless you do a lot of research to find out who you're working with, it's a bit of it's just more information, isn't it? And by that, I mean, it's like there's so much out there. How do you choose if you do know that you need help? And does that fit with business? How's that going to help my business? If I start looking at, I know where my areas are, where I'm blocked, or I've got where I don't have the full level of confidence or that sort of sense of power, and just being able to actualize myself, then where am I going to go to get that information? If you're a high level coach yourself, where are you going to go next? And so it is about, the dynamics of your own energy, the dynamics of your past and your inner child. I can go either way, right deep into the past and also into your spiritual energy. But somewhere along the line, you're meeting in your day-to-day reality. And so it's got to be really practical. It's got to be very accessible. And really what I'm trying to do is to get people affiliated with this internal energy, so that then the presence of who they are, their life becomes a lot easier, because it's much more about beingness rather than doingness. So that's very easy for me to say, but there really is
I'm into that.
there is a transition that occurs that is very tangible, very palpable, that I know that I was driven towards that. I did a lot of, research with Dr. David Hawkins, and had some experience, actually physical experiences, reading books that he'd measured the calibrated level of consciousness of his own books. So he wrote 3, the I, so power versus force, The Eye and the Eye of the Eye, those 3 incredible books that measure the calibrated level of energy of different emotional states. You can measure anything. And of course, as you know, I do energy clearing, and my particular tool is a pendulum, and I have a set of charts, and I've been trained to dowse at a very high level. It's just an incredibly accurate way of measuring the frequency of energy. So a lot of what I do can be very much speeded up because I do the energy clearing for people, but I also can access information like, for instance, the soul challenge, and what a particular soul challenge is this lifetime. And that really helps people make sense of why am I butting up against this particular challenge in my life and it won't go away. And it's when you come towards it rather than try to shelve it because you don't understand it, is that, you know, these are the tools that I'm helping people with, is to find the deeper levels of yourself so that you are more, you know, it's not that you're more than you were, but you're more of who you really are.
Right, you're more of you.
Yeah, the real you is allowed to expand out. So the expansion is an inside out job. And that speaks volumes because energy radiates. So when you're able to access and clear and have your own signature energy flow and, you know, deal with the core power centers, which have accumulated debris and information from our past and our childhood where the blocks are, we can work very strategically with what's presenting. So whatever is presenting in your business life is going to have its core roots really embedded in your energy circuitry. So it's very practical. And when you get that, it's very exciting. I just find it's really exciting. Because when you know it yourself, when you know something about yourself, you're able to read people from that. And so when you interface with your clients, again, your coaching clients, you bring with you natural tools, not that you're going to put what I'm doing onto them. You become different, and therefore the way that you interface, whatever your particular way of coaching is, no matter what kind of coach you are, your particular tool set becomes imbued with this other dimension that comes from you, not me. It comes from you. And that is wealth. It's your wealth, and you will really feel it. You will really feel it and know it. It's not something that happens up here that you read about in a book and it's the, you know, the secret or the law of attraction. No, it'll be yours. It'll be true yours.
I want to comment on that with my own experience with you around that. And, you know, this goes, you're going to tell us more about your wonderful 12-week immersion at the end of this. But I want to talk about my own experience within that program with you. And that is what I think is so phenomenally helpful is that you have both this, you know, audio series that's part of your program. And so that kind of helps set up the groundwork for me, you know, and listening to it over and over again. You have this lovely, you know, soothing voice. So I want to listen to it. It's easy to listen to. You know, they're not so long, you know, so it's not a huge time. I mean, they're like, a lot of them are like 15 minutes long, which is nice. But so you have that piece and you're doing this work, you know, I've been doing this work on my own, but then when I, you know, have my calls with you, I have the opportunity to ask you questions and to really get things like personalized and tailored, and you give me an understanding that I wouldn't be able to get without that, you know, to get on my own. So to me, the combination of that has been so powerful.
Yes, of course. Yeah, thank you, Denise. Yes, of course, when I'm saying, you know, people, you will find your answers within, that there is strategy to get there. And there's strategy for be able to translate what you have going on inside you into day-to-day activity and day-to-day conversing with other people. But it's really about this inner knowing and inner confidence and inner sense of expanded being. You just feel a lot better. You feel, I don't know how to describe it. I mean, I know that when I kind of really, really focused on getting this work down pat for myself, you know, particularly times around deep winter. I mean, I was born deep winter, but, you know, I'm not someone who really enjoys days on end of grey in Cornwall. that was my growing up. You know, that was my memory. I wanted to get the heck away from Cornwall as soon as I can. I went to go and live and work in the West Indies, the first shot I could get to be in the sunlight. And what I found is that, you know, the whole thing about sunlight and light energy and spiritual energy is light, is that it gets to be anchored in the body. So teaching this very physical way of anchoring soul light into the body is what's going to make you feel good. You're going to feel whole. You know, when you've had a really good laugh, or you just have such a really honest conversation with someone, and you just expand, don't you? You kind of just open up. And I think it's also, you know, when you buy something that you love, or with perfume, for me, it's just something like, oh, you know, I just feel fantastic. Because it's something that is connected to something inside of me that responds, the limbic system. Right. So we are very much, you know, it's an understanding. It's hard to put these sort of things into words, but, you know, feeling real is a very real feeling, isn't it? Well, and I would say, you know, self-realization, it's a spiritual term mostly, but it is, you realize yourself, you realize the realness of yourself, you do it. And my job is to just signpost that with as much of the transference, really, of the guidance and the support and the energetic transformation that needs to happen in you, or whoever my client is, sorry, not just saying, in whoever I'm working with, is you get the support going forward. And yeah, the audio series, I think, is, you know, there's a lot in there that's explaining energy, and then we do processes within that. And then, you know, when people do the immersion with me over 12 weeks, this is what's required to work very carefully and strategically with current life, current work, and then tying in where the goals are, you know, where you see yourself heading, and then bringing the soul energy right to the center of that, as like the conductor of your orchestra. So really owning your power as the creator of your reality, not as a nice concept, but as we practice creating that being your reality, you're proving to yourself. You've got to really prove it to yourself. And then from there, you know, you are like the conductor. And so all the aspects of your life are like all the different parts in your orchestra. So you have different people, you have different circumstances, you have different things to do, and everything will you'll start to see and feel like you are the source of it, rather than randomness. You know, so that does include, that's a mastery, it's a high level mastery of beingness. So you don't get all of that all at once, but you do move very strategically towards that. And so the more you put in to it, the more you use your life experience as the sort of fodder to sort of remix and get in contact, the more quickly you get your results. And of course, I know that we're all results orientated. We want to feel great and we want to bring the money in.
Yes. And, you know, when I first came to you, I definitely, you know, had that sense of urgency, you know, and I tried to soften it, but it just was there. It had been there for a long time. And as this block became more stubborn, or I wasn't able to get through it with doing different, you know, working through it in different ways, it became more urgent, right? So that by the time that, you know, I connected with you, it was very urgent. And so I did want results immediately, even though I was open to hearing, you know, how it was going to happen or what you suggested. But what I find so interesting, and I would have never guessed this about myself or expected this from my own journey around it, is that I actually find it so, I'm so curious about the journey now, that I'm not in a hurry anymore. And yet the irony of that is that when I stop feeling in a hurry, things have started to happen quickly. Yeah. You know, as a result of that. And so I think that's really cool, because I've definitely done the work. There's more work I could be doing. And, but I just think it's very interesting. I'm just kind of blown away by the whole, the way it has played out, is that I'm like okay with taking my time.
Well, when we think about
Because it feels,
anything growing,
it feels substantial. That's why, like you don't need to hurry up something that's going, and that's going to be here forever. Like I can tell this isn't going anywhere. This is not like mindset work where it's like, okay, I got to keep the energy up, got to keep the energy up. This to me,
vibrational neurosis.
Yes, this is the foundational piece, right? This is where
it is
like
foundational. It's your roots. It's the It's like if you look at nature, you see the way nature is like a lot of happen when something's growing. You seed it. Seeded into the ground, and it doesn't show itself until it's ready, and then it grows, and you can't fast forward it. If you fast forward glowing flowers, even, they have no perfume. And it's the same with us. The soul is forever. So you and I and everyone, we're going to be always expanding and always growing and always learning, and that's beautiful. And sometimes we really want to stop the world and have a rest, and this vibrational work does take energy, of course, and learning to balance that and listen to your rhythms and respect your rhythms without fear that you're going to lose out or you're going to miss the boat, you haven't done enough. No, the substance of the universe is infinitely kind and infinitely loving and infinitely embracing everything. It allows everything. Look at it, this feminine energy that holds everything, gives birth to all universes, has allowed everything. And there's something to learn from that. It's like the arm of divinity is allowing. Because when you allow, you actually move closer to the essence of that divine presence that allows you to be as you are, and to flourish, and to be successful, and to be creative, and to be fulfilled, and to feel full. So fulfilled out there, but feel full on the inside with the presence of energy. So no, there is no rush. There is. And I had to learn that myself as well. I'm naturally really impatient, actually. I want it yesterday. And it's really good when you really sort of sit down and you realize, you notice your own kind of lurching intensity of wanting, and to understand that sort of the dynamic of that, and to be able to diffuse that energy so that you come back to yourself and you rest, or you go into the quietness of yourself, and then things move much more smoothly. But also, yes, intention setting is a very valuable and powerful part of creating reality, and consciously creating reality, and understanding, the blocks that we have that sort of get in the way of that as being a direct manifestation. And sometimes the soul is wanting us to experience things that are not comfortable and are a challenge. And there are very good reasons for that. There are very, very good reasons for soul development through certain experiences that we really want to run away from. So there's a big range of areas that I cover in terms of energy, but as I said earlier,
because you tailor things so much, right? So
it has to be tailored, of course. Yes, if you're a coach and you've got a specific issue from your childhood, that can be dealt with. Yes, if you're a coach and you're wanting to be this presence and be the magnet, then the inner work is really turning over, where you have gone outside of yourself to make things happen, and we want to move more into the divine feminine essence and have that work for us. So it's not we sit on our asses all day and do nothing. It isn't about that. It isn't about it's active passivity from knowing who we really are, and knowing when to act, which is the masculine energy. Action is a masculine expression, but we're guided by the feminine energy that's flowing through us if we're women, and the balanced feminine in men as well. The listening is coming and accessing a deep knowingness that can guide us from the inside out. So
it's amazing. It's powerful work.
And it's a joy. I mean, it's a joy for me, the kind of really doing this deep work for myself, taking the time has allowed me to work with the color sensation, the feeling and sense that I get of color, and my body gets really flooded with color, being able to use that now in my paintings. And I set up a gallery online, and there's an art critic who's sort of chasing my tail for 20 acrylics right now, which is, it's just fabulous. So it's very balanced to me, because I knew that I wanted to not just be working with helping people. I wanted to do a different kind of expression for myself, which is, and actually, they are energy paintings, so they're vibrant and uplifting, and I love doing them. And it's a balanced place for me, because you don't want to always be helping people. What that's out of balance, isn't it? If we constantly feeling like we've got to help everybody else. What about living? What about living for the sake of living? Living in wholeness is. I want to live from wholeness as well, and not be propping everyone as I'm going along.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I wanted to add too is just, you mentioned this earlier, and I just wanted to say, again, from my own experience of working with you, is that I do feel like I'm part of the whole now, I feel that it's not up here. And for a long time, it was up here with moments of, of feeling part of it. And now it's more of it's always there. Sometimes I just have to remind myself. And so that comes more, I remind myself being more conscious of it. But there's not a separation and a disconnect. It's more of an acknowledgement in the moment, as opposed to like, oh wow. So it's a huge difference. And the safety and the security and just the trust that I feel for myself, because of that, is just enormous.
And from that, being, when you're working with your clients, when you're in that space of not just thinking about strategy the whole time, but the substance of life is wholeness. The substance of life is security. It is warmth. It is love. And it is creative, and it is constructive, and it is abundant. And to really know that, and not just have those as ideas, to really know that, to really feel that, is that it's a really great offering just from beingness, that when you knock up against people that sort of just have that substance in them, because that's what's attracting clients now, and that's what's really it's a treasure that you give, just by being you.
Yes, absolutely. And so that makes me think of, you were talking about your dance teacher who was in her 80s when you were good. So what a great example, because you said, like, she did have all this knowledge or information, if you want to kind of use that as a metaphor for coaches. So she has all this information, but you said you were attracted to her presence, even knowing the knowledge that she has or had.
She was silent, she was moving in silence. She was teaching a load of very, very young contemporary dancers. And, they used her in a lot of the choreography, and she would just be able to sort of work with energy and how to sort of place a dynamic, a really powerful principle dancer, how does that feel, because dance is kinesthetic. It is all about, you see, but actually if you've been a dancer yourself, when you watch dance, you have an experience as if you're doing it. It's almost like you're there doing it with them. So this is very, very powerful in terms of, transmitting presence. It is information, but in a different way. It's sort of 3D, 4D. It's a full-bodied experience of life. So you're not denying the brain at all. But when you're in that full presence of yourself, when you really feel good, or you've been laughing, or you've had this is what I really think about the work I'm doing. When people go on holiday, they have sunshine, they have the sea, they have great food, they relax, they switch off, they turn off all their devices, and they feel fabulous. And they come back and they feel fabulous, and then they go back to work, and within 2 weeks, it's all gone. It's as if they never went away. How many times have you heard people say that? And the thing about this work is that it doesn't disappear because we do 12 weeks. This is something that is really built into your energy systems, right down to the cellular level. And I will do my utmost to clear the blocks that would get in the way of that process. And it's a really fundamental transformation. So it's I say it's the age of information. This is the age of transformation with spiritual development or energetic development and mastery. So I'd lost a little bit of the train of thought there, but I think I kind of covered what I'm saying, is that it is, like we're saying, we're trying to get a much fuller experience of ourselves.
And more of a permanent experience than
a
temporary.
That's it. Yeah, that's what I meant to say. Yeah, it is a permanent transformation because you're working with your soul,
Because of what? I'm sorry.
Because you're working with your soul. Your mind, when you die, your mind is going to pop off, it becomes part of something called the causal body. But your beliefs, in 20 million times, then in 20 million years, they're not going to be the same. But your soul will still be going on, if you believe or know. And I know that anyone who's listening to this has got a sense of the soul energy. And, you don't take your possessions with you. You don't take anything with you. So the development of the soul is something very deep and very profound, and it is energetic, and it is a lot to do with, a great deal to do with your reverence and love for yourself. That is what opens so many doors. And we've got many coaches saying it, lots of, self-love stuff on Facebook. I see it all the time. And so I'm right there, right behind it. But when this is woven into a coaching course for professionals, sorry, not a coaching course, my intensive is for professional female coaches, particularly, that I think really resonate with the whole energy thing. But this is the how, so that they've got some substance, not just within
and
themselves.
The strategy. And strategy, yes.
Strategy, substance within themselves, and then they can start to relate this. They will naturally relate it energetically. You'll radiate it. You'll be like a transmitter. But also to your clients, you've got something else. You've got the next stage. You're just building that into yourself. You develop the next stage. For what
and you work with people a lot with who have gone through your program. You often work with them on maintenance programs too, is that right?
I've got a maintenance program that it's energy clearing for, it's a monthly rolling thing. They have energy clearing. They can choose to have, a meet up with me on Skype as well, but I just clear their energy weekly, maybe up to 6 times a week. And then we have a session. So basically people can ask me questions and ask for specific energy clearings. And then I give feedback that's either, texted and with the option to talk to me as well. So a maintenance package can be completely dovetailed and tailored to an individual's needs, but it's a combo of energy clearing because people come up against static, and I'm not teaching people how to douse and clear energy. It's not something that I do currently. Some women I have trained to do it, but it takes a very specific kind of person, because the integrity around this, because you're working with other people's energy, is very, you've got to really know what you're doing. You've got to be in control of yourself. So yes, it can be tailored to whatever people's needs are. So,
but you recommend your program first. Your 12-week immersion program is that's a better, like a solid route to go. Would you say is your 12-week immersion program, and then maintenance afterwards, should you want to continue?
It's very, I would say definitely that, once, it depends what people are really interested in and how far they feel they've got themselves. But I would say, the 12 weeks is a really good foundation for shifting into this beingness state, understanding energy, some energy mastery with other people and in your business or your coaching.
And I would add, my words with that would be that, it's essential to having a sense of well-being, which is imperative to show up in with my clients,
Yeah.
and doing my work. And then of course there's all the added benefits on a personal level,
Yeah.
outside of my work.
Yeah.
And the other part of it is, it's opening up the door to wealth, whether it's financial. I mean, it's all forms of wealth in relationships, finances. That's what I'm finding is just the.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we've worked with, as this is all wealth in terms of finance is the energy power center is the second chakra, which is it's belly, the womb area. So for women, this is our creative power center. And we have a lot of very programmed beliefs that we may not have programmed in ourselves, but we get programmed by our environment and our conditioning. So when we're wanting to break our own limitations around abundance, whether they're conscious or unconscious beliefs and parameters and constraints that are, really embedded into that energy center, it's really teaching people how to get knowledgeable about what's really going on inside them, because so much around money, like sex, is a taboo. It's really incredible, but you can be really wealthy, but still you won't feel safe in your wealth. Mm-hmm. So people can have a lot of money, but they don't necessarily feel secure. Mm-hmm. So what is that? It's still coming from lack consciousness. It's not coming from abundance being. So it's now I'm not working with people necessarily or specifically or only with money blocks or money issues.
Sure.
Talking about the wealth of ease of earning money, of ease of accepting money, ease of allowing expansive ideas to work for you and not be a struggle for you. So a lot of this can be unraveled energetically with energy clearing, and a lot of it needs to be really worked through, and then where the tensions, and that you can literally feel it inside yourself. People can really feel like a sense of sort of hardness, it's like something's not allowing, and whatever it is that is not allowing you to have, be, or do whatever you want in terms of however you define abundance, that sort of rigidity of there's a physical, visceral sense of holding or withholding of the energy vibration of joy, love, which is on a very similar frequency to the flow of abundance, and very specifically the flow of financial and monetary abundance. And the visioning, you can have a very big vision, but if you haven't unraveled the knots that have kept your previous sense of wealth and what your entitlement to it is and your worthiness to have and to even think about what you want. These things have to be unraveled. So it is twofold in that you have to go towards this with your energy centers, and you have to be able to be very curious to ask yourself, and I direct the inquiry. So I would say it's like it's a different aspect of yoga. The oneness of yoga is, oneness with this divine source, the oneness with yourself. Is that yoga's brilliant. We all know it's wonderful, but it doesn't ask the questions. So this is why people can go so far with yoga, for instance, and other spiritual practices. But it stops at the point, because most spiritual practices have been brought in by, Eastern religion, which is never really, they've been sitting on mountain tops. They're not connected to money. So you can't learn from it. You need to learn from yourself. You need to learn from the practical need and the desire. You've got to be able to understand your own desire nature and release the inhibitions, which is generally energetic. I apologize if I've said this 50 times.
No.
But it's like, well, I mean, it's fascinating, isn't it? Because I've been to yoga, and it's not for me anymore. I mean, it's wonderful, and I do some yogic practice myself, but as a practice for self-development, it isn't enough for me. I really need to understand what the heck is going on.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Well, and so, so first, just to comment on, have you said this? Maybe you've said it in the course of this discussion, but you've said it in such different ways. And that's
Okay.
another element that I find so helpful about how you work with people, is that when you explain it all these different ways, I might understand two of them out of five, or, or
Yeah.
relate to them more. And so I think it's really great. Again, that to me, that goes back to, the bigger vision, the bigger picture that you have of this, that I haven't experienced before, where before it's like I'm working with these fragmented pieces. Even
Yeah.
in the wealth department, there's so many people talking about financial wealth and
Yeah.
how to attain that, or how to allow that, or how to keep that.
Yeah.
And what I've discovered with you is that I came to you with a very specific issue, because I had boiled it down. I had done that work.
Yeah, you
And you
did.
helped me
Yeah.
boil it down more, but I was pretty specific, would you say, when I came
Very.
to you?
Yep,
And
very.
so, but it was still there. But what I think is so, like, just wonderful, and I feel so substantial, is that with the work that we've done together, because it's helping me get in touch with my core power, that affects all areas. And it's definitely going, and I'm giving more attention to that particular issue that I came to you for, but it's just naturally feeding all the other areas of wealth, if you will, wealth in relationships, and
Yeah.
with myself and others. And we don't have to call it wealth, but I just want to, like, be clear to the people listening to that. Like, I mean, that's amazing to me that these have been the results in a short period of time. And I really just feel like I'm getting started too, but I've been really amazed with how powerful it is.
Well, foundations are everything. And,
Mm.
I think that, we all, that this aspect of fragmentation is sort of been a sort of sign of the times as such, that we've been born into that. And there's a natural part of us, a very instinctual part of us that's been, almost unwittingly drawn towards our own light. So there is a natural propensity for, the growth of the soul is something there's a readying that a lot of people are coming up to. There's a readiness within inside them. There's a curiosity, and we need to know that there's solid foundation in front of us. They're not all going to suddenly all become spiritual wafty, a bit flaky. It's not helpful for serious people who've got serious responsibilities and want to live well. So there's that's really important. And I would say that consciousness is complex, and we can be very, very astute, we can be very skilled, and we can be very talented, and we can be very responsible and mature in some areas of our life, right? And we can function really well. And then in other areas, we are still blind, and we're still very young, we're still very tender, and we're still very vulnerable. And oneness is this: it's the allowing of all of it, and it's an interfacing and a embracing of all of it, so that it becomes this integrated. Separation, we separate everything when we go into school. We learn maths, we learn physics, we learn French. It's all compartmentalized. And guess what? Most of our emotional reality, especially for men, is put aside, it's parked. So we're not emotionally literate. And what we've really missed out on, and what people will be finding, is that really being able to be in touch deeply with our emotions, even the most uncomfortable, because we have a palette, like a painter's palette. I could show you mine, but it's a bit messy. that all of the colors on there are all of our emotional palette. So if we kind of want one but not the other, we've missed the fact that you can use the entire spectrum and make a beautiful painting out of it. So your own emotions are actually very beautiful, because what they do is that it's through our ability to be with our emotions, to fully feel, and to know how to to transform them without denying or suppressing them, is that the ability to feel your way through an emotion is the exact same skill that you need to be able to read spiritual symbolism, to be able to feel and know what the soul is saying. So there's a literacy that has to happen. Now, most women are much better than men, but a lot of us, even most of our inner child experiences where there's wound or there's abuse or there is any kind of trauma, or that we don't know how to negotiate that. So that's all being squashed away. But when we do get in touch with it, if you want to go this way with me, and so you don't have to be a coach, you don't have to be doing anything in particular, but this is a big part of my offering as well, for those that do want to, is that emotional power, the raw energy of your emotions is the doorway to the most powerful part of yourself. So we go beyond vulnerability to the power that's out the other side of it. And that, we need support with that. We need to know where we're going. That is not easy to do.
Yes.
I
love that you said it just that way, because it's so true. You do simply just need support with it.
You do.
Sure. And, the right guidance, someone who really does know what they're doing, like yourself. So with all of that, tell us about, do we need to know anything else about your program? It includes calls, it includes the audio
Yes, well,
series.
so basically, I can bespoke this, but, fundamentally it's going to be 12 weeks. So usually about a weekly coaching call, which we do by Skype or Zoom, and that will be recorded. So you have that into perpetuity. I also do energy clearings for you every week, so up to 5 times a week. That's the general. You don't need that amount every week, but basically you have what you need, and I send you feedback, and you can ask me for specific help. Say you're going to meet someone, or you're going on a date, or you've got something quite confrontational or challenging that you're dealing with, then you can make a specific request and I will respond to that. You also get the Inner Wealth audio series, self-love audio series. So that's a bonus with that.
Which is what I was referring to before.
Yeah.
With the love, yes.
Yeah.
Wonderful series, yes.
Yeah. And so I'm really, obviously to get on board with this, we need to have a conversation. So you can just private message me or email me wherever.
Where's the email that we can reach you?
Yes, I'll just give it to you now. It's louise@emotional-detox.com.
Okay, great. And that's where they can simply send you a message to set up a call.
Yes.
Telling them more about the program and what you offer.
Yes, so we can really go into, what's going on for you, and you can ask me all the questions that you want to ask about the content and how I'd work with you. And I will obviously, give you as much information back over that and make.
And aren't you offering just the listeners here a special gift for those who do sign up for a call with you?
Yes. So we can do this in response by email. You can email me or send me a Facebook message. But if you'd like to join in on this, so I'm offering a energy reading. So basically I will calibrate the level of your vibrancy. So your core signature energy, the vibrancy of that. Or you can have, what was the other thing I said I was going to do? I'm so sorry. I've lost my...
We're both blanking out.
Oh! I think I sort of wound down. Oh my gosh, it's been completely gone. I'm going to have to... Should we put it on?
Okay. And what is the other option that you're offering as a special gift if they sign up for the call?
Yeah, now I've just had a lobotomy. So, quick lobotomy. You didn't see, did it? There was an energy. It was an energy thing. It's all magic. Yes, so I'm offering whoever wants to have it, I will research for your soul challenge this lifetime. So, for instance, my soul challenge this lifetime, I use my charts, by the way, and my pendulum. My soul challenge this lifetime is clarity and forgiveness. Hold on a minute here, sorry. Clarity and forgiveness. So and it makes perfect sense because, we always think with forgiveness that we've got to forgive other people. And that list can be very long depending on, what's happened. But what really, really helped me is the way that I was able to forgive the circumstances of my own life and forgive myself wherever I felt responsible. And that's very linked to worthiness in feeling entitled to have what you want, that there can be big levels of unworthiness and unconscious guilt that can be stored up from previous lifetimes, or we've just inherited low sense of entitlement you have, what we desire and require. So yes, you just private message me for either the your
calibration.
the calibrating your current soul signature frequency of energy, and I'll explain when I respond to you, where the optimal is and where you are right now, so that that there's some place for you to go towards. Or you can have the
Soul signature.
Soul challenge for this lifetime.
Oh, right. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a mouthful. That's why
it is. I think I'm all popped out now. Oh, I've got to hide it.
But it's those two things are really, really helpful and very interesting.
Yeah.
So
they are. I mean, it's just, and your signature energy can shift in vibration, especially when you work on yourself. So I think it's a good standard. I mean, basically 75% is good, healthy energy, and if it's dipping low, you want to do something about it.
Yeah, it's just both of those are just another way I see it, and I would love your comments to this, obviously, too. But both of those, what you're offering with both of those is that, it just is another way of having a better understanding of yourself, and how energy works, so.
Yeah. Well, they're just sort of very, they're just very things that I can do that are very profound, and, I can get an immediate response for you. And also, if you want to talk to me, you can just private message me or email me.
And all I have to say to everyone out there is that if this has resonated with you at all, you have nothing to lose. Louise is a lovely person, and I just really do encourage you that if you're a high-level coach or professional, that there's a reason why you showed up here. So go take the next step and have a conversation with Louise. So you won't regret it. So
yeah, there's nothing to lose there. I mean, I'm just I laugh a lot. I love to laugh, don't I?
Yes, you do. That's fab. That makes it even better.
Yeah.
So, I encourage people. This is, how I found you, is that I wasn't necessarily looking for energy healing, but it was one of your posts and maybe one of your videos that I thought, oh, that resonates with me.
Yeah.
And I really didn't know what I was getting into, but, wow. So glad I took that step. So email Louise at louisesmart@gmail.com.
No, it's Louise at emotional-detox.com.
Excuse me. I was a little off.
That's okay. So Louise, Louise at emotional-detox.com. And that hyphen is just the midway up. And you can Google me. You'll probably find me under Louise Smart Emotional Detox. I'm there.
Wonderful. Well, this has been a wonderful conversation as always. And, I'm always amazed by how much I walk away learning from our conversations, Louise. So thank you.
Well, ditto, it's energy. It's not just my energy, is it? It's both, and it's communication, it's resonance, it's soul connections. And I know I've really dissed the internet tonight, isn't I, at the beginning? Didn't I? But I mean, I thank God for the internet, because if it wasn't for that, you know, I'd never have met you and a number of lovely women that have become really good friends.
And you as well. But
Yeah.
you do make a good point about, I mean, we are, you know, we've been through the informational age, and now
Yes.
we're going through the transformational age. And so
Yeah.
we need to learn the skills that you're teaching so that we can adapt to that. So thank you so much. And
thank you, Denise. I want to
yeah.
say to everyone, it's just, you know, Denise has been brilliant at hosting this and bringing it to life, because actually and I've done, you know, a lot of public speaking and talked into videos, and it's just like, oh gosh, it's so difficult to drum up your own questions, to be, you need these sort of trigger, and you need the curiosity from someone else to draw it out. So,
sure.
thank you so much for being you.
Thank you. So thank you for joining us, everyone, and let us know if you have any questions, you know, put them in the comments below, and more than anything, you know, sign up for a call with Louise sooner than later.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.